Molly Karam Rose, yes.
Yes, first of all, good morning, Molly. Is fly. The outfit, as usual, is fly. Hairdo slamming as well. Max Kellerman, you stepped out a little bit with the little shirt right there, looking smooth, nice crew cut, all of that good stuff. I do have a complaint, though, and it's not about either one of y'all. The producers, I mean, where's our opening music? I mean, we just come right on without any music or anything.
You're
like
the open, Stephen A.
The beat matters. That's all I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say. Beat matters. Beat matters.
You were the open. All we needed was you and the New York Giants this morning. All right, Max, let's get right to it, because you know I was super hyped last night watching that game. I still can't believe they pulled it off. Do you think the Giants are now going to run away with the NFC East?
They ain't running away with nothing, unless you consider like a game by NFC East standards. Like, oh my God, it's insurmountable. A whole football game. No, they're not running away with anything, and that has a lot to do with their schedule, although when you look at the schedule, you don't see that's an unwinnable game, like Baltimore right now. A couple weeks ago, you go, man, the Giants are going to get killed, like a month ago. Not anymore. That's a winnable game. Arizona's a winnable game. You know, these are games they can win, but when you look at their schedule, you figure maybe they're 2-2, something like that, and if they're a little bit better than that, great. Cleveland's playing very well right now. You'd like the Giants over the Cowboys last week of the season. But 3 of their next 4, the Giants will be underdogs. And the Washington football team, who, like the Giants, has been trending better and better as the season goes on, who, like the Giants, had a culture change before the season started, although in Washington's case, they had more of a known commodity as a head coach. In the Giants' case, they were hoping that they picked the right guy. But in any event, Washington's schedule's not as bad as the Giants'. Although it's not a cupcake schedule, the main thing I notice is that for the Giants and for Washington, the schedule doesn't look as tough as it used to because our perception of them has changed. You know, when you think differently about your football team and you look at a game like Arizona or Baltimore or Cleveland and you think your team is really no good. If it was the Jets, you go, gonna lose. Unless you see a Bengals pop up somewhere, or maybe a Panthers, you go, maybe that's a winnable game. But the way the Giants and Washington are playing, you look at those same games, you go, they have a chance to win. For example, today, Pittsburgh, right? That's an undefeated team. And I think because they beat the Ravens, but the way they beat them, Tomlin really came down on them. Maybe they don't fall into a trap, Pittsburgh against Washington. But otherwise, that's a kind of a trap game. Washington doesn't have a good record, but they do play defense. They've been playing better than advertised this year. Meantime, the Steelers are coming off a Ravens game where obviously the emotions get up, and as Ryan Clark says, best time to play the Steelers or the Ravens is after they play each other, right? All of a sudden, I look at that game, I go, I think Pittsburgh's going to beat Washington. But I think partly that has to do with motivation. In other words, that's not such a bad win anymore. That's kind of a quality win. So, Stephen A., I don't see the Giants with something like a 2-game plus lead in that division. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be tight.
Max, I got to tell you something, man. I mean, listen, I can't definitively say this, but I think it's possible. I think it's possible that they can run away with the NFC East. First of all, the Eagles are trash. We're just there. They're trash. All right, that's number one. All right, you get them out of the way. Then you got Washington, okay? Washington's got Pittsburgh. They've got San Francisco. They've got Seattle. They've got Carolina on their schedule. I mean, Washington could end up folding for the rest of the season. We can't summarily dismiss that. Their defense is real. Offensively, they're challenged. We understand that. So you got to look at it from that perspective. The Dallas Cowboys are the Dallas Cowboys. What can go wrong will go wrong. And it'll start tomorrow night even more so snowballing because Lamar Jackson will probably be back. The Baltimore Ravens playoff lives are on the line, and they're going up against the Dallas Cowboys. So what a convenient element on their schedule. So I'm going to look at it from that perspective. And then last but not least, I got to take this into account. Max Kellerman, did I not come on the air weeks ago and specifically state this dude, Joe Judge, looks like the right man for the job? Every single week we have watched the New York Giants. They have improved. Whether they had Saquon Barkley when he goes down, whether they had Daniel Jones, ultimately when he goes down, when you watch the New York Giants, this guy, Joe Judge, seems to be the right man for the job. I can't say enough about the guy thus far. They play hard all the time. They improve every single week. And considering where they were and what we considered them to be, And to watch them go out and play the way that they play, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, they're a top 10 defense, number 8 overall, top 5, meaning number 4 against the run. These brothers come and they play and they get after you. So you're going to be in a dogfight. You're going to have an opportunity to win games because that defense usually gives you that opportunity. And when you combine that with the ineptitude that exists within the rest of the NFC East, not even taking into account their schedule, just what you've seen thus far, and then you take into account the level of competition Washington is going to have to go against, the fact that the Dallas Cowboys are who they are, and we know that the Eagles are trash, I definitely think the NFC East is ripe to be had by the New York Giants and Coach Joe Judge and his defensive coordinator.
But I like your points about Joe Judge. I'm going to get to that in a second. First of all, Ron Rivera is a real guy, too. And when you look at the division, the teams with the coaches that you go, okay, that's a culture change. Those are the teams, New York and Washington, trending in the right direction. And those were the teams considered bottom feeders in a bottom-feeding division. So I have to say that about Washington, who usually I think is the weakest team in the division. As far as Joe Judge is concerned, you were right about Joe Judge. Joe Judge, when you do those kind of hard-nosed tactics with the players, you're hard on the players, you're hard on the coaches, early on as a rookie head coach, that could backfire. You have to do it with substance. You have to do it in a way where the team believes that you care about their best interests, right? And Joe Judge has pulled that off so far. It seems to me he's gotten buy-in, and that's great. I'm a huge Giants fan. That's great. I'll say something else. Colt McCoy is a solid NFL backup, but that's what he is, a backup. 100 yards, a touchdown, and an interception, and the Giants were able to beat Seattle with a backup. Daniel Jones, I'd say, is an average or maybe still a tick below average starter, only in his second year, so maybe he can be better than that by next year. But an average-ish starter obviously gives you a premium over an average-ish backup, and Colt McCoy just won a game. So they should get better when Daniel Jones gets back, and so far his rehab is promising. All that said, I'm not going to say the Giants are running away with it. I think it's going to be close between the Giants and Washington, and the division is so bad, Stephen A., if the Eagles steal a win, if the Cowboys get a win, and don't forget, the Cowboys beat the Vikings not long ago. The Vikings are pretty good. If either one of those teams gets a win, there's so few wins necessary in that division, suddenly our perception changes.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say this to you respectfully. I don't think your argument makes much sense when you praise Joe Judge the way that you have, because the bottom line is, if you've watched this man coach and you see the improvement on the New York Giants, and you remember your comments about the NFC least and how pathetic they have been, then it stands to reason, based on what you're seeing alone with the return of Daniel Jones being imminent, that this team is going to continue to ascend. And we can't say anything else about the Dallas Cowboys. You can't say that about the Eagles. You might be able to say that about the Washington Redskins, but we're really not sure as of yet. So we got to take that into consideration. I'll leave this for you and Molly as diehard Giants fans. If Joe Judge, the way he looks, I'm only going by what we've seen thus far, okay? Because obviously the future will tell us more. Based on what we have seen thus far, y'all, if Joe Judge was the coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, they'd be Super Bowl contenders.
I don't know about Super Bowl contenders, Stephen A. I think that they wouldn't have lost 45-0. It wouldn't have been such a mismatch as Warren Sharp predicted, Belichick versus Anthony Lynn, the worst coaching mismatch you could probably get right now, right? And I'll say this, since you point that out, the Bill Belichick coaching tree has always been a disaster in the NFL. But how you like Brian Flores down in Miami? How you liking Joe Judge in New York? Promising returns on young coaches right now off the Belichick tree.
No question. Making lemonade, really doing something special. And I just want to give a quick shout to Leonard Williams and that defense. They're forcing more 3-and-out than they're allowing scoring drives, and they were super impressive yesterday as well.
He's had 2.5
and they've been underrated so far this season on this win streak, obviously. All right, guys, let's keep it going here.